Hello and good afternoon, and welcome to this very special edition of Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. My name is Martin Coward, and we've been gathering every day, almost every day, at least every weekday at noon in this sanctuary to love and support each other through this pandemic. And I'm especially excited today because my dear friend Audrey Smaltz is here to join us. And Audrey and I have been friends in Toastmasters for years, and we've been friends in the National Speakers Association. And she's been a regular here since I began this. She's like been helped me as a foundation. So I'm just so excited to have her come on and talk a little bit about something that's so powerful, and that is how we bring more love into our life. And she has decided that for the last few years, she has made God is love her salutation in her emails and in her business stuff. So, and I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit of her story. I'm gonna just introduce her and say, I love you, Audrey. I'm so glad you're here. I know that you will say wonderful things and you're funny. So just be yourself and share your thoughts on God is love and where that means to you. And I'm gonna be quiet, which is hard for me, as you know.
You're a speaker.
I'm a speaker like you, but you're here. The people hear about me, and I want to get free as much space for you today as I possibly can. And one more last thing before I drink is, if you're joining us, please. There's our good friend Tanya. Hey, Tanya, great to see you here. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tanya.
And so yes, and so we're glad you're here. So like Tanya just did, if you're joining us, if you could just put in your name and say hello in the chat, make any comments, so that we create as much inner dialogue as we can. And I can't tell you who's here. I just see a number unless you say hello. Then I know you're here, and I want to know you're here. So without saying any more about any of these things, I'm going to, because I know we're all anxious to hear what Audrey has to say to us today. So Audrey, take it away.
I'm so happy to be here. You have no idea. I got to tell you something, Martin. I looked in my last year's book to see when I started with meditation with you, Martin. And I started on April the 7th. I don't know when you started, but I got to find out about your meditation through Facebook, and you have really calmed me down, made me more restful, not so agitated and not so on the edge. You tell me to raise my arm, take a deep breath. I never took time to do that before. In addition, I have never meditated before.
Oh, wow.
So this is all brand new to me. So I have discovered something new at my age. So it's never too late to learn something brand new. And Martin, I just want to thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. You're so welcome.
But I have to tell you something. When I speak, I usually start my speeches with, I was born, bred, buttered, toasted, jelly, jammed, and honeyed in Harlem. I'm a Harlem girl.
I love that.
And I'm so proud of being a native New Yorker, because not too many people can say they're native New Yorkers, but I really am. And I have been saying God is love for so many years. And I got it from a very dear friend named Claudette Johnson Muhammad. When she would send me a little note and she would say, God is love. I said, oh, I like that. And she would put down 1 John 4:8. So I just want to read from the Bible. This is the King James Version. And this is starting with chapter 4, verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. 1 John 4:8. And then the very last verse, it says, and this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. I'm going to add sister.
Yes, some of that language and some of those old biblical
Right.
drawings seem to be all sort of slanted toward men. But
It's
I'm
always
so
to
glad
men, you know.
that
Right.
you're welcoming the sisters and the divine feminine into the world, because it is sorely needed in our world today.
Well, I've been around a while, and I was in the fashion business most of my life. I started out as a model. In fact, it was 1954, and I was a say hey kid for Willie Mays. And Willie Mays played for the New York Giants in those days in the Polo Grounds. And where was the Polo Grounds? In Harlem. I could walk to the Polo Grounds from where I lived at 2651 7th Avenue, which is now Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard,
Uh-huh.
in public housing. Now, we didn't call public housing projects in those days. This was one of the very first public housing built in America, right in Harlem. And we didn't have elevators. We only had 4 stories, walk up, and a few buildings had 5 stories. And the people who lived in those few buildings, they had the whole rooftop as their terrace. Can you imagine? Anyway, we lived on the 2nd floor. And do you know what, Martin? I am still friends with 4 people that we grew up together long before we knew each other. Our parents knew each other. And so there's still June Burgess, Fern Walker, Sister Joyce, Joyce Edwards, and it's just a pleasant Kent Drake to still have these friends all these years later. I was totally educated in Harlem. That's when I tell you I was born, bred, toasted, that whole thing, because I went to the High School of Music and Art, or before that, Harriet Beecher Stowe, High School of Music and Art, City College, and just on and on. I love Harlem. I'm not there now, but I just always know that I'm a Harlem girl, and I can't wait to tell people that. And I modeled for Willie Mays, and I went to the Ophelia DeVore School of Charm, so you learn how to walk, how to sit, how to talk, how to enter a room. The receptionist at the time was Diane Johnson, better known to the world as Diane Carroll.
Oh,
And Diane Carroll was the part-time receptionist.
yeah.
And she also went to the High School of Music and Art. And guess who else went to the High School of Music and Art from Harlem? Billy D. Williams. And he has a twin sister named Loretta. So we all went to the same school. And then Bea Richards, who was with Sidney Poitier and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, was my teacher. She was the one who taught me how to enter a room, how to walk. So at an early age, I had incredible people, and including Ophelia DeVore. So when I used to model, we would get maybe $10, and you had to bring your own clothes. Then I watched Miss DeVore. She was the commentator, and I said, "Oh, I can do that." So I went to Miss DeVore, and I said, "Miss DeVore, I can do that." So she said, "Well, sit here with me and do the commentary." You sit down at the table, and I started doing the commentary. Then I found out that commentators got paid much more than the models. So then I said, "Well, I don't really need a model anymore. I'm going to do commentary."
You were already an entrepreneur by that time, weren't you?
Well, and then a good friend of mine who was my mentor, my sponsor, my advisor. She was my everything, Evelyn Cunningham, and she was the editor-in-chief of the Pittsburgh Courier. But so many people thought that she was the fashion editor or the women's editor, and she knew that I could speak well. So she said, "Audrey, people are always giving me jobs to be the commentator. I'm going to tell you about these jobs so you can get them." Hence, I was making $25 or $50 a show. My mother would come with me and she would give me a critique. And my mother said, "Do not use cards because the girls are going to give you the wrong card. Only talk about what you see, Audrey." So that's how I started commentary without cards. You don't really need to look at the card because the girl would give you the wrong card. It would be she'd have on a green dress, and if you didn't look at her and you read the card, it said green dress, and she's got on a red something. And so my mother said, "Don't bother with cards." So it was my mother who told me early on, just hit it. Just say whatever you want to say. And I never tell people what color because they can see what color. I always say fun things, what to wear on Sunday when you don't get home till Monday. People can relate to that. So So I had a lot of fun doing commentary, and I did that. And then the next thing I know, I wanted to be in the Ebony Fashion Fair. I was too tall in 1958. The girls were 5'6", 5'7". I was already 5'11". I was really 6 feet, but I never wanted to say I was 6 feet. I just told everybody I was 5'11". With 1 inch, you didn't know. Anyway, so they didn't accept me. But then when they finally accepted me, they accepted me as the commentator, and that was 1970. And I did that for 7 years. And that was the best job anybody could possibly have, traveling first class to Paris, to Rome, you name it. And I got to meet Picasso. I got to meet De Chirico because my boss was very, very wealthy, and she would buy their paintings. So I'd be with her when she was buying paintings, and we were buying the clothes, and I got to meet all the top designers of the world. And they would call me Miss Ebony. If they couldn't remember Audrey, they would say, Miss Ebony, how are you? It was fun. Yves Saint Laurent, Hubert de Givenchy, Emmanuel Ungaro, Bill Blass, Oscar de la Renta. Oscar, Audrey, just say my name. Oscar de la Renta. and then Bill Blass, in those days, he wasn't that well known. It's early 70s. And Maurice Retner owned Bill Blass. But eventually, Bill bought himself out from Maurice Retner. But and the salespeople would come to the shows, and the salespeople told Bill that I had this saying, if I tell you his first name, will you tell me his last? And I would say Bill, and then I take the microphone and put it in front of the audience, and they said Blass. Well, Bill came to see that. He couldn't believe that all of those black folk knew Bill Blass. Oh, it was just so much fun, and I learned a lot. I was the fashion editor, but that wasn't not enough for Mr. Johnson. I also had to sell ads. I sold space, as they called it. So I sold space. I was the editor, the commentator for the fashion show. I had to travel. Then I started, and I told them that they should have their own makeup company, and they loved it. And I tried to get a percentage, and Mr. Johnson said he didn't give anybody a percentage in his business. So it's okay. We started Fashion Fair Cosmetics. I said, here, we're having this fashion show, and you're using Posner's fashion cosmetics, and you're using Flory Roberts. You should have your own. And I told Mrs. Johnson that you could be the black Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder was alive at that time. Eunice loved that, honey. She just, so she was Eunice Johnson of Fashion Fair Cosmetics.
I mean, didn't they recently do a show, an HBO movie about her? The woman was a black woman who did that.
No, they haven't done it yet. They should, because she was a character.
And tell us a little bit about how you founded your company. You talk
my company. So I got to tell you this, in the 70s in Europe, black models were the thing. Everybody was using black models, fabulous girls. And so we didn't always get invitations to get to these shows. So I would just go in the back. I was much thinner then, still 6 feet tall. And I would go backstage with the models. They would think I was a model. And I just mind my business, stay in the corner. And I could see the confusion, the chaos, everything that's going wrong backstage. What is going on back here? But, I just mind my business. And I could see the models, they would take little things, like a pair of shoes, whatever, earrings, whatever. And then I decided when I wanted to go into business for myself, I turned 40 and I wanted to go into business for myself. Oh, I see Melinda Mount is here.
Hey, Lindsay, how you doing? So glad you could come.
It's so nice to see Melinda Mount. Anyway, I decided I wanted to produce fashion shows. Well, nobody wanted me to produce their shows. They had everybody to produce their shows in New York City. So I had to come up with, I can dress your shows, and you using right now your mothers, your aunts, your friends, the housekeepers, the bus. They were using everybody who worked for them to dress. They didn't want to do that. I said, I have professional dresses. Well, they weren't professional, but I made them professional because I paid them. So once you get paid, you're professional. And so then I guaranteed them that nothing would be missing. And they said, oh, Audrey, that's impossible. We're always missing things. I know, because I know who's stealing them. I was watching it for many years. And when I worked for Donna Karen, and we used to the first shows we used to do in her showroom at 557th Avenue, the 14th floor. Donna used to put me at the elevator and check all of the models' bags as they were leaving. And then I had to put somebody at the back elevator because the models got hit that I was at the front elevators checking the bags. I had to put somebody at the back elevator to check the bag that they weren't taking a pair of shoes or lovely earrings. They just felt it was theirs, you know.
All right. I know.
They didn't mean anything by it. So that's how I got the ground crew started, and I did a show for Saks Fifth Avenue. Oh, Helen O'Hagan gave me that opportunity. Oh my God, to do a Saks Fifth Avenue show, and the show was for Bill Blass. And they watched us backstage. They couldn't believe it. Little ground crew. Oh, you guys know what you're doing, you know, because Saks have their own people to do a fashion show. But I got the very first fashion show because of Donna Karen. Donna Karen said, Audrey, don't charge Saks because they don't have the money. And, you know, just don't worry. I'll pay you because I want the ground crew to do the show. And when they saw the ground crew could do the show, Saks Fifth Avenue people were backstage watching us. And that's how I got to Saks Fifth Avenue. When she saw what we did with Donna, then I did the Bill Blass show. But then I got Bill Blass as a client. Then Oscar de la Renta found out that Bill Blass was my client. So he wanted us to work for him, the ground crew, and we did. And then Carolina Herrera, and it just
build yourself up. Tell us a little bit how you came up with that name, the ground crew.
Oh, the ground crew. This is very important. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. received the Nobel Peace Prize on December the 10th, 1964. And Dr. King came to speak at Concord Baptist Church on 145th Street and Convent Avenue in April of 1965. And I heard him talk about the ground crew. I just remembered that. And so when I started my business in 1977, it just stuck out. But nobody could remember when he said ground crew. I called his daughters. I called his secretary. We called everybody. And finally, somebody gave us the reference. So here is the reference, because I didn't know the reference, but I just knew it was ground crew. And Martin said twice, every time I take a flight, I am always mindful of the people who make a successful journey possible, the known pilot and the unknown ground crew. And then he said, you honor the ground crew without whose labor and sacrifices the jet flights to freedom could never have left the earth. Martin Luther King Jr.
Wow, you just made the hair on my skin go up. That was just beautiful.
He said this twice, and it was a very short speech he gave.
Mm-hmm.
But I remembered that because I heard him say it at the church. So now it's 65, it's now 77, I'm going into business. I was Audrey Smaltz in the atelier. Now I got rid of that because now I want to do fashion shows. So we make, and we're in the back. We make certain they have their clothes on right, the right shoes, they get out on time. We send them out on time, and they hit that runway, and the plane takes off. They hit the runway, and those girls hit that runway, and they take off. So I thought it was just the right wording, the ground crew. And then I had it trademarked, and of course it's registered. And hence, everybody knows the ground crew. Some people call it Audrey's ground crew, but it's just the ground crew.
Wow, where's the ground crew today?
Well, I'm retired, but we have, my attorneys told me that we have to do minimum two shows a year to keep the name going, even though it's registered and it's my name. So we do about 2 shows or 3 shows a year. You know, we call people, we don't charge them a lot of money just to stay legal. But we have Nike, the NBA, we have the NFL. We work for a lot of fabulous people. Oh my God! And you meet the best people. And talk about meeting the best people. I met the most fabulous people with the Ebony Fashion Fair. in the very first year I was there, 1970, we got to Atlanta. Atlanta, the show was the first day, the first Sunday in October. Guess who was backstage with us? Sidney Poitier and Muhammad Ali. He had just changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. And our show was on a Sunday. Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali, as he keeps telling me, Audrey and Muhammad Ali. Okay. Just introduce me to those pretty models. That's everybody wanted to come backstage to see the models. I knew Cassius Clay from the 70s when I worked for Lena Horne Beauty Products. That's another story. Anyway, he was gonna fight the next night on Sunday night. And can you imagine he's hanging out with us on a Sunday afternoon just so he could see the models or be near them? And he gave the entire bus, because we were on a Greyhound bus, he gave the entire bus free tickets to go to see him fight. I did not, because I don't like fights. I didn't tell him that. I gave the ticket to somebody else. I was watching a football game. It was Monday night, a football game. But we used to have, Isaac Hayes from Memphis, Tennessee. Sammy Davis Jr. You name it, everybody who was anybody came to the Ebony Fashion Fair. So I got to meet a lot of people. God has blessed me. God is love. And when you show love, when you let people know that you love them, they can feel it. Mm-hmm. And we don't talk about love enough. And this is perfect timing, because in 2 days, it's Valentine's Day. But if you can treat Valentine's Day as every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. So,
it's every day that you love somebody and show your love. Be appreciative. Say thank you. You know, that's so easy to say. Thank you.
And hearing you share these stories of your life and your business, it's really, really clear to me that your essence is love, Audrey. I've known you always felt that with you, and that I would say that love you're talking about is not the romantic love. It is the creative power of love within, and you just shine that. And I would say that you tapped into that at a young age, and that's why you've had such a great life, and that's why you've been so successful and made money and had a great time. I love one of the stories that I'll share, and I'll just love to hear comments about it. One of my icons is Oprah Winfrey.
Oh wow, yes.
Now Oprah and I are the same age. We were born in the same year, and she
54,
was born
1954.
1954, and she was born in rural Mississippi, and I was born in rural Georgia.
All right.
And the chances of her succeeding were much, much higher than mine, I got to tell you, because I grew up as a white kid in a pretty privileged place. But she tapped into that same love you tapped into at a very early age, and look what she's created in this world, all out of love and abundance in the world. And I would say that's you. You're a demonstration of that. You're maybe not as well known as Oprah, but you're pretty well known. and that what I just want to point out is what's coming across to me is the cornerstone of your success and why you've had such a wonderful life is all rooted in the awareness of your I would call it the divine feminine, that love instinct, that you just care for yourself and you care for others so deeply that you want to make a wonderful difference in people's lives. And you want to make that difference in the fashion industry, an industry that's not often welcome to what you were bringing. Talk a little bit about maybe some resistance you got to what you were bringing to the fashion industry.
Bringing what?
Any kind of resistance you might have gotten from the fashion.
Oh, resistance.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm working on my life right now, trying to put a book together. And in New York Magazine in 1987, I did a fashion show on Wall Street in the financial building, the financial building, not the Twin Towers, that other building right next to them.
Uh-huh.
In 1987, Christian Lacroix is having his very first show at Bergdorf Goodman is giving the show. And I was hired not by Christian Lacroix, but by Bergdorf Goodman, because I did their shows and I had to do the show downtown. And my friend Terry Agins called me and she said, Audrey, how you doing today? I said, you won't believe this. I'm going to do a show on Wall Street. And she's working for the Wall Street Journal. And so she tells her boss, and then she calls me right back. She says, I'm coming to that show. Give me one of those ground crew t-shirts because I'm going to come backstage and pretend that I'm a ground crewer. She did. And then the point that I wanted to bring out was that when the magazine wrote about, the New York Magazine wrote about backstage, they said it was black back there. And I just read that the other day. There were a lot of black models. And then, of course, the ground crew is black. I always hire one or two white girls, always. You know, I'm not prejudiced. But, honey, they said it was black backstage. I just read it the other day. I couldn't believe it.
And they were saying it from not a flattering way.
No, they said, the dresses and the models, it was black backstage. And that's something. You were white people back there, but that's all they could see. You know, you don't usually see that many black. When you saw the ground crew coming, we were brown skinned backstage. We were all complexions, you know, from the very fair. And I had a few people, some men once told me, oh, you charge too much money. I can pay you in a gown or a dress. I don't need a gown or a dress. I want my money. And then one woman gave me a hard time. She said, you charge too much money. I said, miss, you signed the contract. I never heard anybody getting $50 an hour to steam clothes. I said, miss, we had to steam all of those clothes, open up those boxes, hang up the clothes, steam the clothes, and it was perfect, right? And now you're telling me that I charge too much money? And so that I'll never forget, that was in 1411 B-Way. I'm not going to mention her name. 1411 Broadway. Anyway, I said, miss, downstairs, I have a man that needs a fix. And if you don't give me my money, honey, I'm going to send him up here to you. And you know, I didn't have anybody downstairs. I threatened her. You know, she gave me my check. I used to have to go after my checks. The people said, Audrey, you charge too much money. I said, was anything missing from your show? And Oscar told me, Oscar de la Renta, he said, Audrey, from now on, you charge me for, you put yourself down and charge me a lot of money because I'm saving a lot of money ever since I started hiring the ground crew. I'm not missing any necklaces, any earrings. I can't believe it. He said, you should charge me. And that's how I learned how to put me down for $1,500 for 2 hours.
There you go. See?
I didn't know before. I would just charge for the ground crew.
And you add value.
And I was there.
That's how we add value when we create wealth, because people could see the value you brought to the table. Oscar did it because he said, you know, you're saving me a lot of money, so I want to pay you.
That's what he said. And I hadn't even thought about putting me down. And from then on, honey, I put it down for Donna Karen, and nobody questioned me. Not nobody. Don't get me wrong.
Of course, because they added you, because you were adding so much value that they were more than willing to write you a check. And that's what I want to talk about, is when I talk about as a prosperity coach, money shifts from being kind of a reward. They're not rewarding you for doing your job. Money becomes an expression of love because you have added more value and you've created more value for their line of business. So money becomes an exchange of love and for value creation. And that's how we create wealth in the world. That's how Oprah's created. That's how you created wealth in the world, is because you have come from a place of love, and you offer value, and people are willing to pay for that value. And that's the moral of that story. And from my perspective as a prosperity coach, is that when we come from love and when we begin to make all of our transactions around money about adding value, then it becomes an expression of love. And to your point of God is love. So that's your story. That's what makes it so beautiful. So we're going to meditate. We're getting up on the half hour, and I want to just. Is there anything you'd like to say before we start the meditation? We're going to meditate for about 20 minutes, like we always do. You're familiar with that. We're going to raise our arms today too. So
I love when I raise my arms.
And is there anything you'd like to say before we meditate?
You said such wonderful things about Oprah, and I thank you for that, because she did come to Ebony Fashion Fair and she saw me, and I did 2 Oprah shows. It was wonderful, honey. Yes, back 1987, I did 2 shows for Oprah, and it was incredible. She's an incredible person. Oh, I'm so proud of her and
Well,
all what she has accomplished.
you are too, Audrey, and you're an inspiration for me, and you always have been, and I'm sure and even more importantly, you're an inspiration for young Black women, African American women who may be hiding from the world because of whatever, and for them to see and hear you tell your story is just a wonderful inspiration for others. Because I already said I was born in Harlem, but look what I've done, look what I've met, look what I've created, and I've had a wonderful life at
Beautiful.
83 years
It gets
young.
better,
Right? I know it
It's
gets
getting
better.
better.
It gets better. So let's sit up straight, and I'm going to read a little bit from that. It's not the same part of John that you read, but I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning of the Gospel of John as just a way to kind of begin to. The reason I do that is because it's to get the human mind sort of bombarded with some spiritual truth, so it can kind of open up and be more willing to be quiet. So we're going to read this, and then let's just start with raising our arms up in the air. We like to do that, right? We raise up, we get up in our chair, we sit still, and we raise our arms to remind us that's where the life is. That's where the divine is. It's not your arms that lifted you up. I mean, they listened to the command from the divine within you. If you weren't alive, you didn't have that divine spark of love, you wouldn't raise your arms. But because you're alive and you're well and you're full of love, we raise our hands. Just a reminder, so you can put your arm down now and put them in your lap and just relax. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and just begin to let go, and just let go of all the thoughts, all the work, all the planning, all the opinions, all the judgments, all that junk, as Richard Rohr calls it, goes on in our head all the time. Just for a moment, say thank you and let it go. Just surrender it to that deeper part of yourself, that still point within us of unconditional love and spaciousness. You might want to take a nice deep breath deep into your belly. Feel your belly expanding and your rib cage expanding as you create more space for yourself, more space for love, more space for your essence. And as you breathe out, just let everything go with it. Don't hold on to anything. Just know you're loved. Just allow yourself to fall back into the loving arms of the Divine Mother that's holding you and is always holding us in this world. If we just trust enough to let go of all the thoughts and concerns and worries we have in the world, they'll all come back. But for right now, just let them all go. And as you're breathing and you're focusing on your breath and you're letting things go, I'm going to read a little bit from the Gospel of John. And then I'm going to get silent. And we're going to meditate as soon as I set the timer. And allow the vibration of the bell and the sound of my reading to take you deeper inside of yourself. Just listen to these powerful words from the beginning of the Gospel of John. In the beginning, the Word was, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word was in the beginning with God. Through the Word, all things came into being, and nothing came into being apart from the Word. That which came into being in the Word was life, and the life was the light of humanity. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness never overpowered it. There appeared a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness to the light, so that through him everyone might believe. He was not the light, but came to bear witness to the light. There is a sweet sound of that bell to wake us up from our thinking and our planning. Just with gratitude, let it go and fall back into the stillness of unconditional love within you. There's the sweet sound of that bell again. Wake us up from our thinking. Just let it go and fall back into the stillness of unconditional love. There's the sweet sound of that wake-up bell to wake us up out of our thinking. Open your heart and with gratitude, thank that brilliant mind for all it's doing, and just let it go. And gently fall back into the arms of the Divine Mother. There's our final bell to welcome us back into the space. Well, look at that. Isn't that
That
nice?
was so beautiful.
Yes, it is nice to just let go and just fall back into our essence, isn't it?
Fall back into the stillness of unconditional love.
Yes, it is so sweet.
There's a 12-word expression that I use a lot. Mary Baker Eddy, page 494, line 8. Divine love always has met and always will meet every human need. I say
Yes.
that every day as a blessing. Divine love, that's God, always has met and always will meet every human need. Martin, thank you. You are you are very special. You just calm me down. Cause I could.
Can I just share a little secret with you? It's not Martin. It's Martin gets out of the way for Joy the wise woman to step in and do this because Martin can't do it. But Joy the wise woman is very good at it, and what Martin's gotten. So thank you, but Martin's gotten good at
Okay.
practice of letting that part of me set aside and let Joy the wise woman come into the presence. And that's what you do the same thing. You may call it a different thing, but when you say God is love, and all your stories tonight told me the same thing. You have learned over the years to get out of the way and just love, and let that divine spark of love within you create a wonderful life for yourself and the people around you. And so anybody else want to have some wonderful words for or ask this lovely, lovely friend of mine? I'm so grateful for our friendship.
We've known each other a long time.
We have known each other for a long time. And
I don't remember when, but it's been a while.
It's been quite a number.
I've been a member of Toastmasters since 1995. And I was a member of the National, still a member of the National Speakers Association, the National, since 1992. And Robert Gedalia and Randy got me involved in Toastmasters because and that's, we met either, I don't know, somewhere along the way.
I'll tell you when we met. They used to do these things in Toastmasters where they would bring in the people who were from the past, the great speakers of the past.
Yes.
They had these quarterly events, and you came and spoke once.
Oh.
And you said something to me that changed everything. It says, when you go up there, Martin, up on that platform, you just stop and you breathe and you look out there and you command presence immediately. Mm-hmm. It's your stage. Don't get up there and just start speaking. Go up there and stop for a second, look around the room, make some contact with people. We'll bring Joy the wise woman into the space because she's the one that needs to be speaking. And you taught me that years ago. And I always remember that.
And I learned that from someone from NSA. You just go up and just stand, be still, take in the room, and people are taking you in.
And let that presence, that love come out and go from there. And that's what we do. That's how we roll.
That's how you roll. This is the best.
That's how we roll.
And my other thought is the power of the pause.
The power of the pause. Isn't that the truth? I'll share one more thing I'm doing right now that I haven't told you about. Was one of my things is I want to share my message about scarcity being one of the scarcity mindset being one of the root problems of the world, and we can all have abundance mindset. We can solve the world's problem. And I've been wanting to do a TED talk on that. And I want you to know I'm now part of the coaching program to get that done this year. And I met with my coach yesterday, and she says, Martin, you've got a really good message, a good idea. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. So I'm very excited that I'm going to be able to take these skills of speaking and put it into, and have the coach. I need the help. I don't know how to formulate it into a good TED talk, but that's what this coaching group does. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to be taking all the stuff you and I have learned together from the NSA and from Toastmasters and from my experiences to create a TED talk. So I'm excited about all that.
A TED talk. Oh, how fabulous! Yeah. Fabulous! That's wonderful.
Oh, Melinda, yeah, you should write this down. And
said, oh, Melinda, I can't wait to meet her in person.
Well,
you call her Lindy, I call her Melinda.
When we get
power of the pause, that's the truth.
There is so much power in because that's when we stop the mind for a second and we breathe and we bring in that divine presence into the room, into the moment, and that's why it's so powerful. Yeah. Wow. Well, it's at the top of the hour. If you'll just hang on for 1 second. What's somebody else want to say something? Me to you. Oh, she's just paying back the compliment. And you know what? We were talking yesterday, Audrey and I were getting prepared for this, and she said, you know, when we get on the other side of this pandemic, we got to all get together for lunch. And I would love to
all of us go get together for lunch.
I used to own a restaurant, so I'm a pretty good cook. So, and I got a wonderful backyard. We'd get together and have a little cookout where the weather's nice and we can all get together without having to wear masks and everything. So that'd be a
Right.
lot of fun and catch up and really spend some sweet time together. And I look forward to doing that. So, Audrey, if you'll just stick around for 1 second, I'm going to tell everybody goodbye and let them know I'll be back on Monday.
Okay.
And how much I appreciate y'all, everybody being here today. And wasn't it a treat having Audrey here? Isn't she just a breath of fresh air? And what an inspiration for all of us. And I'm so grateful for spending the time. I can't believe this hour has gone by all so quickly. And so thank you so much for your generosity of heart and your wonderful words of wisdom for our audience today. And thank you so much. So for all of you who are watching today, thank you for tuning in. Please do something. If you didn't get to watch the live, watch the replay and comment on the replay, because I'll come back later. If I see your comments later when you're watching, I will respond, because I know a lot more people often watch the replays because of timing issues and they actually watch me live. So and I think you get just as much from a replay as you do the live almost. So please put your comments on there, and I will see you on Monday. May love and prosperity prevail.